Hey guys, how's it going? F8 Alpha here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're back in World of Tanks, and we're having a look at the VK 45.03. As I'll be calling it just the VK 45. Now, this tank is a premium Tier 7 German heavy tank, and right now, as of the July 10th, it is not available in the premium shop, but I thought I'd bring you guys a little something different. So I set up a comparison here so we can see what the VK45 is all about. I will be comparing the VK to the Tiger 1 and to the French AMX M445. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into it here. So the VK has a 1,787 DPM, where the Tiger has a 2,241 DPM. Also, the AMX has a 1,746 DPM, which means that the Tiger has the best DPM, the VK is in second, and the AMX is in last. Now, when it comes to penetration, the AMX has them all beat as it has a high velocity 90mm on it. It has 212 penetration, where the Tiger and the VK have 203 because they are running that famous long 88. The alpha damage on all three of these tanks is exactly identical. They all have 240 alpha damage. The fire rate is where things get interesting on these three tanks. Now, the fire rate of the VK is 7.45. The fire rate of the Tiger is 9.3. And the AMX has a 7.2. So what that means is obviously that the Tiger gets its high DPM from the insanely fast reload time of that 88mm. Now, if we're looking at gun handling, the VK has the best gun handling in this comparison. It has an aim time of 2.1, followed by the Tiger, which has an aim time of 2.5, and then the AMX, which has an aim time of 2.7, meaning that the Tiger can aim the fastest. It also has the best dispersion or accuracy. The VK has a 0.32 dispersion, the Tiger has a 0.33, and the AMX has a 0.35. Also, the track traverse, the turret traverse, and on the move shooting also all go to the VK. So the VK has the best gun handling in this comparison, which is what really sets this tank apart from the Tiger, aside from the ultra high DPM of the Tiger. Now, in terms of mobility, the VK can travel 38 kilometers forward, 12 in reverse. The Tiger can travel 40 forward, 12 in reverse, and the AMX is the slowest at 35 forward and 12 in reverse. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the VK has a power weight ratio of 10.7, the Tiger has a 12.1, and the AMX has a 15.3. However, this is a little bit skewed when you look at the terrain resistances, as the VK and Tiger are very, very close in terrain resistance, and the AMX lags behind as far as terrain resistance goes, which means even though the AMX does have the power weight ratio advantage, it kind of falls short with the terrain resistances, meaning that these tanks are very similar in their play style as far as mobility goes. One thing to take note of is that the turret traverse on the VK is 22.9, the Tiger has an 18.7, and the AMX has a 31.2, which is very fast for a heavy tank. Now, when you look at the hull traverse, the VK has a 29.2, the Tiger has a 27.1, and the AMX has a 25.3, meaning that the VK falls in the middle, just behind the AMX as far as being able to traverse its turret and hull. Moving forward to armor, we see that the VK and the Tiger have exactly the same armor thicknesses. They both have 100 on the hull front, 80 on the side, and 80 on the rear. The turrets are 100 on the front, 80 on the side, and 80 at the rear. However, as you've probably noted, that the VK is angled, which gives it an effective armor rating of about 130 on the upper plate, on the upper glacis, and 160 on the lower glacis, making it a better tank as far as angling goes. And with that said, you can angle this tank and it is much more effective than the Tiger if you were to angle. This tank is also a decent side scraper for the tier, as it has the angled sides on it, and it's not completely square like the Tiger is. One thing to take note of is that the turret is fairly weak for a tier 7, meaning you won't bounce many shots off the turret. However, the hull is somewhat bouncy, and it can actually take a few shots to get through. Looking at hit points, the VK has 1400, the Tiger has 1500, and the AMX has 1350. Once again, the VK lands in the middle of the group in this comparison. Now, when it comes to equipment, I personally would recommend the gun rammer, the vents, and the coated optics. However, the coated optics could also be switched out for something like a spall liner, which will give you an additional 30% protection for your crew and your tank when it comes to HE rounds. Now, as this is a heavy tank, the crew skills would be my traditional heavy tank skills. So that would be 6th Sense for the commander. You would have Snapshot for the gunner. You would have Safe Stowage for the loader. We would also have Off-Road Driving for the driver. And the Radio Man would have Repairs. Now, alternatively, you could run all repairs, as this is a heavy tank. That'd be very beneficial for your first skill. And look at getting the other skills I just mentioned for your secondary skill. However, for me, I will go ahead and grind out the skills I mentioned a second ago, as the second skill I will be looking into will be either repairs or brothers in arms. My opinion on how to play this tank plays best like a slow medium tank. While it is a heavy and it is slightly slow at 38 kilometers an hour, if you are to take the flanks that a traditional heavy tank would take, this tank fares very well, even when it's in the lower tiers. This tank does well when engaging medium tanks. It slightly struggles when engaging heavy armor. My thoughts on the VK: it is a nice crew trainer, credit maker, and experience earner. The tank is capable of side scraping, which is a giant leap forward compared to the Tiger, but compared to the Tiger, it does not have the monstrous DPM that Tiger holds. With that said, though, it does have 203 millimeters penetration, which gives you a pretty solid advantage over something like a IS or IS-2 that has 175. But just remember, you're only doing 240 alpha damage per shot, so you're going to have to pull out and fire and pull back in as quickly as you can. Now, this tank is slightly weak when it comes to the turret armor, as it seems to get pinned very often in the turret. The lower hull is angled, as you see, and it can bounce shots. However, I would not recommend sitting out in the open and trying to bounce shots. It is not one of those tanks that you can reliably bounce shots in. This is a kind of a last-ditch effort in order to bounce shots if you find yourself in a situation. I would recommend the coated optics, as if you have the coated optics on there, your view range is a little above 400, and that is very beneficial. I think somewhere around 420. But with that said, guys, that's my review of the VK. It's one of those tanks you don't see very often. I thought I'd bring it to my review here, to my collection of videos in my World of Tanks. With that said, guys, I am F8 Alpha, and I will catch you guys next time.